Hi, everyone, and welcome to my Thursday night Real Estate Investors Hangout. I'm so glad you could make it tonight. I see a lot of people in the chat going back and forth and meeting each other, so I'm glad you had a chance to do that. Thank you all for filling out the poll. I like to know who's listening and kind of the experience that they have, so it's really nice that you guys filled out the poll. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you here tonight. It's just wonderful to be able to share the knowledge that I've gained over the years with other real estate investors, and I love just helping you guys out. So welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. I do live in San Diego, and that's where I started my investing, but I've invested in many states across the country. So I've experience in different markets. So if you have any questions, type them into the chat, and we'll be getting started on the main training in just a few minutes. So I want to welcome Judy, who's here, and Ray, and a couple of other people are not chatting, but they did register for the Hangout. So if you would like to say hi and what city and state you're from and where you're hanging out from, you can go ahead and type that into the chat. I apologize if you're not in the webinar jam and you're watching on either Facebook or G+, go ahead and type something in the comments there. I can look at it later. I just can't watch it while I'm watching the chat, because that would mean looking at chats on 3 different places. So you can always comment on Google+, and you can also make comments on my website. There's Facebook comments under there if you happen to be watching there. And then on Facebook itself, I'm not sure if you can see the comments or not, but I'm glad everyone's here tonight. So what we did in the last one was we talked about how to find rentals. So I've been doing a couple series this year. I did one series on how to find, fund, fix, and flip for people who wanted to do the flipping side of the business. And now we're talking more about buying to acquire for yourself. Of course, many things carry over, and one of those is the marketing. So I was looking today at, I think it was a Facebook group on real estate investors, and there are 2 things that people get confused about when they get started. And I think it's because they've heard so many gurus who are kind of far removed from the beginning stages that they don't give them, the information that they need to kind of sort out details in the beginning. So 2 things that I found people get confused on are where to start. So private lending and how to find deals. So the chat that I was looking at today had someone asking if someone had private lenders that they could send their way. And then the realtor got very upset saying, well, if you don't have money, you shouldn't be doing the deal. So there were several people going back and forth in this conversation. And so let me just clarify a little bit. If you are buying an REO, the bank really wants the person who made the offer to be the exact same person and the name matching the person who has the funds. So very difficult to wholesale those. I would not suggest it. But if you're dealing with a regular homeowner or a landlord, it doesn't matter to them where the money's coming from as long as you close. So you might get the deal under contract. You might find a partner who has the money. So then the money is situated in a different bank account than you because you made the offer on it. The other thing to do is, make the offer in the trust, and then you have to show that the money is available in a trust account. One more way to do it is to sign up and have someone be with you as a partner before you start. What we used to do sometimes is have the person who had IRA money make the offer, and then the money was shown in their IRA. We weren't necessarily going to take that money out to do the deal at the time, but at least the person making the offer and the IRA, the money matched. Those 2 deals matched up. But then when we went to escrow, the money could come from someplace else. So there's 2 things I want people to start with, and that is marketing for your own deals so that you have a deal you can wholesale, and then finding your own private lenders, because there's a reason they're called private lenders. They're known privately to you, and they want to lend to you. because they know, like, and trust you. Those three things: they know, like, and trust you. So if someone else is passing you a lender, it's probably a broker, a hard money lender who is going to charge you a lot more. They don't know you personally, but they're not going to take as much risk in that deal. So if someone says, yeah, I've got a lender for you, they're definitely a hard money lender. All right. So that being said, the details of how to get all that started. Anyway, last time we talked about finding rentals. And so what I wanted to do this week is let you figure out how to start a mailing so that if you can find your own deals on the mailing, that'll make it much better, either if you want to wholesale or you want to rehab the property yourself. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to show you my ebook a little bit later, and then you can just click right on the link in the webinar if you want to just download the ebook. So for right now, I'm going to jump into 3 videos. So one is a video of me kind of explaining all the different things about finding the lists. The second video is about, and the reason I'm doing it pre-recorded is because I tried to shorten it up. You didn't have to watch me log in and all that stuff. So I pre-recorded how to get your list and select the right criteria that you want for your list. And then I downloaded it. Then the third video is about sorting out the list, eliminating the duplicates, and how do you set up so that you can put the addresses on actual letters. So there's 3 kind of pre-recorded videos for tonight. But first, I want to show you I'm going to tip the screen up a little bit. I'm going to show you 4 different places that you can find a list to use for your real estate. So I'm going to move to the side here a little bit. So in the video, I'm going to use propertyradar.com. That's the first one and it's the easiest one to show. So that's why I decided to do it. You can get lists from your title company for free. And that's basically called a farm list. Right now, you can probably get most of those online. I use Chicago Title, so it's online. So later when I set this up in a more extensive training course, I will show people how to do the title company one too. ListSource is another place to go, listsource.com. With ListSource, you buy each record. If you're a very large user, you can have a big account. But usually you just buy the records. And I'm going to show you an example of that later. In Property Radar, you have either a $39 per month account or a $59. $59 is if you want all the foreclosure information. And really, if you're not going to the county records, I mean, if you're not going to the courthouse steps and buying foreclosures with cash, you really don't need a $59 account. That's when there were tons of foreclosures and people were buying them mostly at the courthouse. And the other one I haven't used yet is called Listability. I have heard that if you're paying per record, that's one of the least expensive ones. I'm going to tip it up a little more. I'll show you. I've listed all these on my website. I can't even move out of the way here. Anyway, it's wisewealthuniversity.com/resources. So if you go to that website, wisewealthuniversity.com, and that's right down below me, /resources, I have all of those 4 things listed, the places you can find your list. The other thing you're going to need is a really good phone number. And I use a system called Grasshopper that is also listed on my resource page on my website. So what happens with Grasshopper is you can get an 800 number or a local number in your area. And then you can have a pre-recorded message. Now it costs, I think, $12 a month. So if you don't get any calls, it's not costing you much at all. So you pre-record a script for the buyers. So when you send out letters, or if you have business cards, mailings, if you do door to door, they can go and listen to that script and see if they really want to sell for, less than, market rate, and that you're not going to pay full price, and that they're not going to have to pay closing costs. So you have a whole script on that. So you can do that. And you can forward those numbers to your cell phone, your office phone, your partner's phone, your spouse's phone. You can forward the numbers many places you want. You can also get an automated email when you get a message recorded there. So it's really good to pre-screen people, so that if they're just tire kickers, you don't have to spend a lot of time on the phone with them. It also has a really nice company directory. So it sounds like a big company because it says go to the company directory and type in the name of the person. So once they've talked to you a few times, they could call back and talk to you specifically, again, especially if you have a couple people who you're working with. So that's a really great system. It's called Grasshopper. It's on my resource page. Again, you can see in my title down here in the corner. That's, if I can point to it, right here, wisewealthuniversity.com/resources. And I list all the links and everything you need to get that. So I'm going to go ahead and start the first movie. First, I have to screen share, and I'll see you back in a few minutes. If you have any questions, post them in the chat. I won't be able to see it till after the movie's over, but I can get back to it later. Direct mail. You can use letters or postcards. There's a couple different types of letters. People have heard of the yellow letter, and you've also heard of a print, kind of a professional business letter, and you've also heard about sort of a bill letter. So I use a combination of all of those. I like to hit the same people 3 or 4 times with their mailing, and I'll use a yellow letter, then a postcard, and another postcard, depending on who I'm targeting. So I target 2 types of individuals. The first one are homeowners that have been in the property for a long time, as long as you can figure out from your county records. And the second group are absentee landlords. Those are people that have the property, they might be tired of having it. You can combine those and say landlords that have owned it more than 10 years, but sometimes landlords have only owned it for a couple of years and something happens in their life. They move, they get sick, there's a job opening someplace else, and they really want to sell their property, or they have a couple kids and they just don't have time. So you can target those 2 types of people: absentee owners and people who've been in their property for a long time. A long time is more than 10 years. So that's what you want to look for. So let me check down at my notes here. So when you do the yellow letter, that is done on a yellow pad of paper. This is a little difficult to implement. It kind of works on your printer, or you can outsource it. You can handwrite the letter and then copy it onto yellow paper. I found yellow paper doesn't always go through my printer, but if I go to Kinko's, I can rip off the pages from a yellow pad of paper, and it will go through the Kinko's printer better than it will do mine. So I've done that before. The other letter is kind of a business letter that's, I'm a San Diego real estate investor looking to buy properties here. That's another one. The other one is a similar letter, but it's put in a different envelope because it's put in a business envelope. So, and I'll show you a few examples of those. And the other one I use is postcards. So the postcards, I usually use the service called Click to Mail. And I'll definitely give credit where credit's due. I learned about that from Chris Chico. You can find out his course on chrischico.com. I think he has one right now for, I think, $97. So it gives the postcard and exactly the details of how to do it. So you first need a relationship with your title company if you're going to get a free list. If you're going to go to ListSource, you're going to pay per name for the list, maybe 10 cents a name. I have a relationship with a title company. I can pull 1,500 names or records a month, and that's more than plenty to get started. Because what you do with absentee landlords and also regular owners who've been in there a long time is you mail to them 4 times a year. So you're mailing to them quite often. So you pull the names once and you just keep using the same list. So, you can find a relationship with a title company, tell them you want to farm, you want a farming list, and they'll set you up. I know with Chicago Title, I can do it right online. I don't have to contact them anymore. It's an online situation. All right. So what do I do with that letter? I put it in a regular, plain old, envelope. And I'll show you a couple of examples of the envelopes that I use. So you use an envelope, you use a return address label, and kind of a fancy stamp. I don't use the flag stamps. They're too basic. I want a nice big picture stamp that people notice. And then you hand address the envelope. I mean, you can find someone on Craigslist to hand address it. I have my kids hand address them. Sometimes if I'm watching something on TV, I will hand address a bunch of envelopes. Very easy to outsource that. You need to fold them up. Another way, and stuff them, put the stickers on. Kids love putting stickers on, by the way. That's a fun thing for them. The other thing you can do is do what they call lumpy mail. So in lumpy mail, you put something in the envelope that makes it feel tactile. You can feel something's weird about the envelope. Hold up an envelope while I'm doing that. And if someone goes, oh, I wonder what's in there, and they want to open the envelope. So what are two things I put in lumpy mail? One is sometimes I very simply just put a paper clip right on the letter and fold it up. Sometimes I put a Post-it note on there. If I want to remind them something, I stick the Post-it note on with the paper clip, and then they can stick the Post-it note on their fridge. You can put in candy, but it has to be really thin. Now, the post office has a lot of different requirements. So I've gone to some of these little foam stickers that you can buy at Michael's, Walmart, a big container of foam stickers. And sometimes they sell them cheaply when they're out of season. So these are kind of like the landscape ones. And I put that piece of foam in the envelope, and it makes people open it up. So what does the envelope look like? I've got it. I can't show the address on here, but here's what happens when the envelope comes back. So let me show that to you. You see a return address label on the top and a nice fancy stamp. So I used several return address labels. That was kind of a house one. Here's another one that came back. And that one is my spring flower one. And the other return address label, this is kind of the one for barbecuing. Looks like you're doing a summer barbecue. So how do I get all these different labels, and how do I do it inexpensively? Well, I use Avery labels online, and I usually buy the labels from Office Depot. I don't buy the Avery labels. The Office Depot ones are actually cheaper. You can buy a big package of them in bulk. And you do your design on averylabels.com, and you just print them on your own printer. You can pick any picture you want. You can upload a picture, and you put your return address on there. Now, when I put the return address, let me show you this one again. You see my address there. I've put apartment C. It's really a suite C, but I want people to think it comes from an individual person, so they'll open it up and not a business. So I put apartment C. It still comes back to my mailbox. All these letters came back to my mailbox, okay, because they had the wrong address on them. When you're using addresses from the title company, they're coming from the people's tax records. So this is the address where they mail the tax bill to. And if people don't update their address when they move, especially if it's a rental property and they're moving their home address, the tax bill may not come to them the next year. They may have to, go, call the county and pay for it or whatever and make it forwarded to them. So they have to update their home address for their rental properties in order to receive the mail. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's what the envelopes look like. So what do I do? How do I get the list? When I get the list, it's usually in an Excel spreadsheet. And what I do is do a mail merge with that. I mail merge the addresses that I want to put on the envelopes, but I don't put them on address labels. I just mail merge them as if they're address labels, and I just run them through the printer with as if they're return address labels, and I just use regular paper. So I'm going to flash it real quickly up here because I can't show you the addresses. So that's one that I've done, and that's one of the lists I've used. So as I go through it and hand address the envelopes, I can just put a check mark when I've mailed them. So you'll see that one had quite a few check marks because I've I've done that list 3 or 4 times. If you see a red, yellow circle, that's because it came back and had the wrong address. So as soon as it comes back, I circle it, and then I take a bunch of them at once and spend time looking up online and trying to find, what the person's new address is using these different, white pages or people search or something like that, people tracker. You can get an account for, I think, $39 to look up as many addresses as you want. So that's my address label. The business letter, I'll show it to you. I don't have any yellow letter examples right in front of me. I think they're over there. So I have kind of a business letter, and you do have to sign it. You should sign it in blue ink. That's what I just showed you. And you just fold that and put it in the envelope. And then the last thing I put on is the stamp. You really don't want to put the stamp on ahead of time, because what if you mess up the envelope? So the stamp's the last thing, because that's the thing you paid for. So you put that on it at the end and send them all out. So that's how you do your mailings. You've got to pick your area, pick your street, go through the title company, get your list, print it out as if it's going to be on address labels, but you just print it on regular paper so you can write on it. You also go to Avery Labels and do your return addresses labels, put those on every envelope. Then you hand address, stuff the envelope, use a paper clip or a little foam dealie or a thin piece of candy, whatever you want to make people curious to open it up. I think at Easter once we put some of that, the green grass that you use in Easter, we stuffed a little bit in each envelope, and it just kind of made it a little thicker. People wanted to open it. So it was a fun project. Okay, so that's direct mail. I send out letters. I sometimes use the yellow letter or the business letter there. And, the heading is, I'm a San Diego investor looking to buy your San Diego property. I also do the postcards. I use a modified version of the postcard from Chris Chico. The other thing you're going to want to need is a phone. You can use a Google Voice phone number. That can be forwarded to your house phone, your cell phone, your partner's cell phone. You can forward it to wherever you want. So Google Voice number is free. You can also buy a track phone that has a local number and just have that number being used in your letters. In that way, your letters, when people call that phone, you're only paying for the calls that they make. So you don't have a monthly charge. That phone's just sitting there waiting for it to ring, and if someone calls that number that it's from the letter, so you can answer it right away. So you have to carry that extra track phone around with you. That's another inexpensive way, to have another phone without an expensive monthly phone service. The other service I use is Grasshopper. You can get an 800 number or just a regular local number, and you can plug in some scripts that will speak to the homeowner when they call the number, and then it can forward to your phone as well. So those are the services that I use in association with my direct mail. It's really one of the biggest and best ways to get good deals. People call me from those letters. Most of the deals that I get did not come from the MLS or realtors, because they're a little more expensive when they come through a realtor. As soon as you have a little bit of money just to buy the stamps, start doing that direct mail. If you're going to stuff the letters yourself, go ahead, do 100, 200, 300 at a time and be able to handle the calls as they come in. Don't do as many. Do 300 a week. Make that your goal. Don't outsource it at first, because that costs more. You're just going to pay for the stamps initially. So, 50 cents a letter. All right. And that is the best way for you guys to find some deals. So anyway, that is kind of an overview, a personal overview. And then what I'm going to do next is show you how to get your list and sort the list. So just, the real details of how to do that. So I'm going after motivated sellers. So there's two kinds of motivated sellers. There's the absentee landlord, and there's the free and clear homeowners. So in this particular example, I'm going to go over with you how to find the absentee landlords. They're the most motivated people on the planet. And you can send them a business letter, a postcard, a hand addressed letter. You really don't do the yellow letters because a yellow letter is pointed at someone saying, I want to buy your home. That homeowner wants another family to move in. And that's the appeal of the yellow letter. You know, my husband and I want to buy a house in your neighborhood. So that doesn't really work for landlords. It doesn't make any sense. So I save those for the free and clears. So I don't do yellow letters for absentee owners. So I'm going to jump in and show you how to find your list, how to pick your list and sort it. And I'm going to use Property Radar as the example. Now, Property Radar is available for properties in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona. So I know most of my listeners are from the West Coast, at least for now. And so they can use that service, and it's $39 a month. It is a great service. You'll just love it when you see what I'm going to show you. So hang on, I'm going to do another screen share. And if anyone else is in on join the call, go ahead and fill out the poll. I sent an extra email reminder out to everyone else who registered. So let me look for the screen share button again. There we go. While there are quite a few different ways to find a list, I'm going to show you Property Radar, which has properties listed in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona. So we're going to log in, and what you first see is your dashboard, and you can see I have a bunch of lists saved on the left with alerts. It will update me when there's a new property that meets the criteria of that list. You can also search for individual properties by address or the radar number, and you can select the interest you have in them by the stars there. So I'm going to do a property search and show you how to select your list. Now we're going to have different search options, and I'm going to go through the different things that you can select there. The first thing I'm going to do is select only single-family homes and eliminate the other types of property from my list. So for these purposes, we'll do single families, and we'll do 2 bedrooms and up. I prefer 3, but sometimes older homes have 2, and it's a big bang for your buck by adding another bedroom. I usually go 900 to 1600. Those are really good sizes to use. And I usually go older than 1980, and I want to have no pool in my selection. Primary residence, I'm mailing in this example to absentee owners, so I want to say no primary residence. And if it's owner occupied, I want to say no. Again, it's almost redundant. And mailing list, I would say mailing list no. That automatically means everything will be an absentee owner. So I'm going to go on to value, and I'm going to select 50,000 up to a maximum of 150,000. I know that's a good price range for the area that I'm looking in, and 50,000 as a minimum will eliminate me selecting any mobile homes by mistake. You can also look at equity if you're looking for free and clear properties. Now we can look at other types of data. We can do when it was recently transferred if you want to find out what flips are going on in the area, foreclosures and loans. But for this purposes, I'm not going to select anything in those categories. And then I can go ahead and look at a summary of my data and make sure that I selected the right criteria. So it looks like I left out the zip code, so I'm going to need to add the zip code, and this is an area up in Sacramento. So we're going to go ahead and select that particular zip code, and then look at my data summary again and make sure that everything's in place for my search. You want to limit your search somewhat on this particular website because they only allow you to search 500 properties at one time. Some other sources allow you to search a lot and then narrow it down, or they allow you to search a lot but only export a certain number. So I have too many search results, so I'm going to try to limit that. Sometimes I do it by going down in price range. So right now I'm going to sort by price range and look at the bottom of the range. So I scroll down to the bottom. But I think what I'm going to find here is that there's so many houses really close to that $150,000 range that I can't really find a good cutoff point to eliminate some of them to get down to the 500 that I want to search. So looking at that, I'm going to have to find another way to limit my search. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and limit the search in a different way. I'm going to limit the search by when the property was purchased. So I'm going to look at purchase date, because if someone just purchased a property recently, they're probably not going to have problems with it in the first year. In fact, you can buy a lot of deals from landlords after they put their first tenant in, and the tenant moves out after a year, and they realize how difficult it is to put the next tenant in, or they end up with a trashed property. Then is a really good time to buy from those particular owners. So I'm going to change the search criteria a little bit and eliminate houses that have been bought just in the last year. So I'm going to look over at my property details. There's not much I can change here. I could go down to 1,500 square feet. That's another possibility. Or make them slightly older by changing the date. So I'm going to go to more and look at the transfer date and see if I can eliminate some of the properties. Unfortunately, it's kind of a guessing system. You don't really know how many properties you've eliminated until you do the search again. So I'm going to pick a date range, and I'm going to pick the date range from now going backwards until the end of 2013. So about the last year and 4 months. And I'm going to use that as a way to eliminate some of the properties and end up with a good list that's just under 500. So that's something that I can afford to mail to. So I'm going to make the list go from 1940 and make that go up to the 1st of January. So let's see what we get. Yep, I already have still a few too many results. I've eliminated some of them, so I'm going to go back and change that date range and not bring it all the way out to June. Just a year ago, I'm going to make it more like a year and a half, like I had mentioned before, instead of just 1 year, because 1 year didn't eliminate enough properties for me to make this work. All right, so now I have, looks like 469 properties, just the right number. So now I'm going to go ahead and sort by price range, see that I still have the right range that I want, and that is just a market value that's estimated by Foreclosure Radar based on, present sales and comps in the area. Purchase date, I'm checking to make sure that I have the right purchase date. It looks like they only go back to like 1960. And then the cutoff will be December 31st, 2013, when we get down to the bottom. So that's a good range to look at. You can also look at equity. And what I do first is sort by the owner. And this tells me if this is a really good place to invest. Because if you see a lot of companies and family trusts holding rentals in the area, then you know that there's a lot of kind of savvy investors who invest in this area. So as you scroll down, you can see that I do have a lot of those. Sorry, that was my phone. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and eliminate the companies, because usually anyone who has an LLC or a corporation is not really in bad shape and is not going to really give you a good deal when you start to negotiate with them. So what I have to do is go ahead and select any owner that's an LLC or a company, and eliminate them from my list because I don't want to have to mail letters to them. So you can see there's a lot of companies in this particular area as I scroll down. So that one was a single individual, but people own multiple properties in this area. So it means it's not too expensive to own multiple properties, and it's a really good rental environment. And this is really what you're looking for when you want to decide where you're going to purchase your own property. So it's showing you that there's a lot of activity already in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and sort by owner. And in some of the websites that you use, you might have to export your list before you sort by owner, so that you don't do that right in the system. You actually just export the whole list and do a lot of this sorting in Excel. But here, it's a very good website, and it allows me to do some of my sorting and elimination before I do the exported list. And what I do when I export the list is I often go and send that list to a virtual assistant, and I have my virtual assistant do the mail merge and a lot of the activities that take a little bit of time for me, and I just have them do it, and so that they it's very quick for them, especially when they're doing it over and over again. And then they just upload the file back to me in a Dropbox or box.net type system, and that way you can get this done fairly quickly. But I'm just going to show you here how to do it, so that if you don't have a virtual assistant yet, you'll know how to do it yourself. And then as you develop your investing, you'll be able to hire a virtual assistant to do this for you. So as you can see, I'm checking on the left and eliminating all of the properties that are owned by individual companies. And it's going to keep doing this for a little while. I did edit some of it out so that you don't have to see too much of it, but there are a lot of companies. I keep anything that's in a trust. If it's a limited partnership, I know they're very sophisticated, and I want to eliminate those. But if it is in a trust or a family trust, I will keep those. If it's in someone's IRA, I know that could just be an individual with one property in their IRA. And so I will keep that in my list too, because that individual may pass on or may be tired of dealing with owning a property within their IRA and might be willing to sell that. So as you can see, I'm going through and eliminating partnerships, LLCs, and anything that's incorporated into a corporation. And I'm keeping all the properties that are in a trust. So it's going to keep going through. I'm going to keep going through and eliminate these in the list. All right, I'm going to expand this list up a little bit so I have more room to work with. And then continue to eliminate the corporations. This is an excellent area. You don't usually see this many corporations buying properties in an area, so I know that I've really hit on a good one at this point. And this is an area that we do buy properties in, so I'm just setting up a mailing list for you so you know how to do it. All right, so we got to the bottom of the list all the way down here, and now we can look at getting ready to export our list. So we finished the whole list, and what we're going to do is check those and go ahead and hide them. So now they're not on the list. You don't see any blue lines on the list anymore. So we eliminated, looks like around 60. We eliminated about 60 of our properties. And so now when I export the list, I'm going to save my current search. and give it a name, type it in and save that search, so it'll be saved in my system as well as then I'm going to export the list. And if it's saved in my system, I can get alerts when there's actually new people getting added to the list, or if I find information about it, something that I really want to add, or if someone calls me back, I can add that into my saved search according to the exact property that I have. So now back to the map, you can see where everything's clustered there. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to save my selected properties that I want to export, so more like around 400. So I've eliminated the ones by the company. I'm going to select it. I'm going to open it in Numbers, but that's the same as Excel on a PC. So I'm going to go ahead and open that for you. In the next video, I'll tell you how to go ahead and sort that list and use it. All right, let me go back to the screen share. Let's see. All right, so it's back on. All right, so that's how you sort the list. I'm going to show you one more list, because what I did was I took the same zip code and I put it into list source so you could see how that works. Now, I don't have a whole screen share on it. I'm going to show you the list, what it looks like at the very end after I did it, but it's the exact same zip code. It's just the criteria are a little bit different. So let me screen share that for a minute. It's this one right here. All right, so this is list source. So what I did was use the same zip code, and what happens in list source is you can do a quick list and you can do absentee owner. I eliminated the pools, and what I came up with was 985. And the reason for that is that the size of the square footage of the properties is in very distinct categories. So I chose 1,000 to 1,500, and I didn't chose to include the 500 to 1,000 square foot homes. Whereas in the property radar, I was able to specifically put the kind of homes I wanted, and I put some at 900 up to 1,600. So my range for property radar size homes was a little different than I had in list source. So in list source, and I also didn't eliminate anything by age of the property. And I'm not sure if I can actually go back and show you how the list happened. I think here's a saved search. I think it's just going to show me exactly, what I have, because I was logged in. So anyway, that's the list that I would have come up with. I might try to find for you the list. So what it does is, when I generated this list, it said it was going to cost $169 to buy the list, and that's for almost 1,000 records. So that comes out to about 14 cents per record. I was able to get that down to $139 by eliminating the duplicates. So in other words, people who owned more than one house. And you just saw on the other list that I went through a ton of people and eliminated those. So that brought my list down, I think, $30. So I took the $139 divided by the number on the list, and so I would have to pay about 14 cents per record to get that list. So in list source, your price goes up by which things you included in the criteria. So in my list source that I did, I used the size of the home, and of course, absentee owner. I used no pool. But as you go through it and try to use list source, and you have to set up an account for it, it'll show you, as like I started with, there's 11,000 properties in that one zip code. And as I added criteria, it would bring it down to a reasonable amount. So that might be a very good list for me to get, the 985, if I didn't have Property Radar. Since I'm investing up in Sacramento and sometimes in Phoenix, I find Property Radar is very, very useful for my own usage. So I've got another short video for you. So we need to work on sorting the list first. So here's the list that I've exported from Property Radar. The sorting in Excel or numbers will be the same for any list you download. So I'm going to open up some of the columns that I want to look at. The first one would be the owner address, the owner city. So you can see that the owners don't all live in Sacramento. Some are out of state and some live in different cities. And then I'm going to open up the address of the property just to verify that all the properties that we selected from our list are all in Sacramento, and they're all from the same area code that's our target market right now. So you see the ones at the top. You can see that this particular owner lives in Hawaii, so he's definitely not on site. That's why he's an absentee owner. He is absent from the property. So now I'm going to transition now and just work right in Excel and not have Property Radar open. So what I'm going to do is just open up those columns again and show you some of the other data that come with the list. There's certainly a lot of other data that come with the list. I'm going to look at owner first name and last name in preparation for sorting this list so I can get rid of the duplicates, because I don't want to mail one landlord 5 letters if they own 5 properties in the same location. I'm just going to mail them 1 letter. So I want the owner name opened up so that if there's some discrepancy in the address, I can see that they are the same owner. So here's all the data that come with this. You can see the square footage, the year built. It's an older area, number of baths. Of course, I selected not to have the pool. You can see an estimated value, the annual tax information, the first loan. There's the estimated value. First loan, second loan, who the bank is, when it was last transferred, and the amount of the transfer. Remember, all this information comes from the tax records, so that's why the information has to do with when the property was actually recorded. So we're going to slide back over now and look at the owner address. And I'm going to get ready to sort. I'm going to sort by the column owner address. And this is how you do it in numbers, and it would be similar in Excel, but you have to know how to do it in your particular program. I used to use Excel a lot as well. So I'm going to sort the entire table just by column O. And that way, all of the properties where the owner has the same address, the street address, will all come together. And I can just eliminate and not mail to those particular addresses. So that's what I've done. I've sorted by owner. And as we scroll down, you're going to see how there's some duplicate addresses where the owner has 4 and 5 properties, which really tells us a good thing. This is a good place to own rental properties. There's a lot of rentals in the area. As you can tell, when we did that sort, we had a lot of properties and we had to kind of eliminate it to be able to export the 500 that's allowed in Property Radar. You can always get more in Property Radar, but then it's a little bit hard to know which ones you already picked. You could always select the list twice. So I'm moving the titles back up because when I sorted them, the program sorted them alphabetically so that the owner address column, that was down by the O's, by the streets that started with O. So I moved it back up to the top and saving that list. And now I'm going to go down and start eliminating any addresses that have where the owner lives in the same, where the mail goes to the same owner, the owner address. This one's a little funny because it's 204 and 246. So I kind of slide over and make sure that it's the same person's name. And sometimes I look up to see whether it's really number 246 or 204, or I decide to just keep, I think they may just live in the same area because they are different names. So I'm only going to eliminate one of these. So when I go ahead and do my letters, I will just skip over this one in the list because I'll notice that the street address is blank. So I just leave a blank space in there. I keep the town because sometimes when when a letter comes back, if the person doesn't live there anymore, you want to know what town they're in because it makes it easier to skip trace and look up that person. So we see another one where there's 2 or 3 same last name. So we're going to eliminate that one as well. Here's a family trust. I always mail to the family trust because they're really just individuals like you and I. They're not someone who's set up an LLC and is doing a corporation. They just set the family trust up to protect their assets. I think this address is the same because it's got the same owner's name. I'm just not sure if it was Vista Creek Circle or not. So I've kept one of the addresses. I'm eliminating a few of those because it's Joseph Smith and Joseph Smith's trust. So it's really going to the same address. Again, just saving, 49 cents, 50 cents a letter, just saving the postage on those. So this is kind of working through this is a little tedious, but it's just showing you how I make those decisions of which ones to mail to. There's another duplicate there. Another duplicate. Looks like Harris Cornwall and Cornwall Harris is the same person. Here's a guy who owns like 6 of them. Mark Hayes. So he only needs to get one letter. And as we move down, we see a lot of people have 2, but then some people have, 5. So they must have decided this is a very good area to own rental properties in because I don't usually see this many in some of the other addresses or some of the other zip codes that I mail to don't have quite this many duplicates. So good landlord area. The prices are fairly low. The houses are older, so you get an inexpensive price, which is really good. All right, as we go through this, I'm just checking some of the names here. Making sure they have the same name. All right, right here I'm just checking the names to see if it's really a duplicate. There's definitely one there on Wild Ave. And as you can see, a lot of people do own several properties. I always mail to trusts because I know that the trusts are just people putting their assets into a safe place to keep them. They're doing it more as a retirement and as an estate planning vehicle. So they're not in it as an active investor like we might be, where we have an LLC or an S Corp. So if they're an active investor, I usually don't mail to them because in a way they don't have as much incentive to discount the property. So I'm going to eliminate this one. This guy, it looks like Theo Tai, that they just mixed up his name in the first and last name several times when they recorded it. So remember, these are the tax records, and this is how people get their tax bill. So if someone has the incorrect address in here, they will not get their tax bill. So I get about 10%. So 20 letters out of a 250 letter mailing. About 10% will come back with the wrong address, saying that the people don't live at that address anymore. So I do set up some skip tracing. I either do it myself or I hire a VA to do it. And I usually use a paid service because the free services don't give you much information. It's really hard to get the address from them. I mean, you can go back and forth with some of the paid services. It just takes more time, and when I'm paying a VA, I'd rather have them just use one monthly service. I know People Smart used to have a yearly fee, but they've recently changed it to per month. So there's several services that you can use to do that, and I'll talk about that later in one of the other videos coming up. So again, this is a really good area for rentals. People have not just 2, but 3 and 4, and some people have 5 and 6 rentals in the area. And remember, the houses are older, so they're less expensive, and you have a good chance of finding some that really need a lot of work. And I think I did a search with this on ListSource. I eliminated as many as I could, and I still came up with a list of 900 to mail to, because I didn't eliminate them based on sizes, and I used the bigger sizes instead of the really small properties, and I didn't eliminate them based on price. So there's a lot of properties in this particular zip code to mail to. Okay, so coming down to the bottom now, and the last few to take a look at. And it looks like I missed an LLC here, so I'm going to go ahead and just eliminate that one, because I don't need to mail to the LLCs. As I mentioned before, they're just like you and I. So that being done, it looks like we're coming to the end of the sort, and then I'll talk in the next video about how do you set up your letters and get them ready to send, because there's a couple of little tricks that you can do with mail merge to make it much easier to get an address on those letters. So until the next one, see you later. All right, well, here's our sorted list, and I'm going to show you how to easily address the letters. Now, you can use the same idea for business letters. You can upload them for postcards, and you can do hand address envelopes. So what I'm doing is I'm just highlighting the owner's name and the owner's address. I'm going to highlight it in a different color, and that way you can take the list and just sit down and do some hand addressing. Those are the only ones that you really, the only information on the list you really need. The other thing that I like to do is I like to export this information into a mail merge. And what I do is I mail merge just those important pieces of information into what's called mailing labels. So if you can do a mail merge in a Word document, or you can do it in OpenOffice into a list that looks like mailing labels, and I showed them to you on the last on the other video where I was showing you letters and things in person with my talking head there. So it's easy to take that list. Now, you don't have to put them on address labels. You're just printing them on regular paper in the address label format, and it makes it easy to write out the address, because your eyes don't have to follow the lines. The addresses are laid out like they would be on an address label on an envelope. So that's a great way to do it, because you've got here probably close to 500 names, 400, and we've eliminated about 60 because of the duplicates. So close to 400 letters to write. All right, so sit down and address your letters. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching the videos. So let me go ahead and put up that ebook. I tried it earlier, but I couldn't do it while I was broadcasting. Hopefully it should show up, but I'm not getting it to work really well. All right. So anyway, that's how you find your list. You sort your list, export it, and then you can work on letters. You can either hand address or print them, or you can print address labels if you're going to send it to absentee owners. I do kind of a business letter for absentee owners, because let's face it, they're used to getting bills. And so they'll just open something that's a bill, because they know that it has to do with their rental property probably. So that's how you set up your mailing list. The two things that new investors don't understand is how to get their own deals that aren't in the MLS. So you won't be competing with anyone for these deals. You'll be the only one negotiating with those absentee owners. And the other one has to do with getting private lenders. I'm just going to show you how to register. I know most of you did this already. You go to wisewealthuniversity.com/hangouts, and you can register for my Thursday night hangout. You can also use that same address, wisewealthuniversity.com/PV lending. PV is for private. So PV lending. And that's how you get my ebook. I was trying to make it pop in and show you, but it's not working right now. So wisewealthuniversity.com/PV lending, and you get a free ebook. And then there's 4 follow-on emails that, over a course of 10 days, that give you more information about finding your own private lenders. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm the Pink Professor, or just Pink Professor on Twitter. And so I do real estate updates and also postings about some of the hangouts that I've done. These hangouts are on YouTube. So if you go all the way back and look at the playlist, and it shows up at the end of this video as well. I have a playlist on my channel, Wise Wealth University, on YouTube. And that playlist started in October, and it will go through all the subsequent hangouts. So if you really want a refresher of how to invest in real estate, I kind of start from the beginning, and each week you have a little bit of information to digest, and you can watch them at your own leisure. And then, of course, we keep doing them live every week as we go forward. So I'm going to go back to my webinar jam here, and I'll try to get the ebook up, but usually it shows a nice picture for me, and it just doesn't really want to do it tonight. So I'll check the poll. It looks like about half of the people watching have 1 to 3 rentals, and the other half have more than 3 rentals. Not as many people have done wholesales or flips. It just shows you that for those of us with W-2 jobs and things in the past, it's been easier to buy rentals and hold on to them. So hopefully with that new mailing list system that I gave you, you'll be able to set up some mailers, and that's where I've gotten my best deals and made the most money. And definitely check out the ebook. I kind of went back through it a few weeks ago and looked at, the cost of a lot of the deals that I've done, and it looks like I've raised $1,814,000, over the last couple of years for our various deals. So what I put in the ebook are the same techniques that I use. So just go ahead and use those. I know they work. So that's what I want you guys to go ahead and do. So if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer any if you want me to tonight, or I can answer them on the next Hangout. I really appreciate you guys coming tonight. I'm so glad that you could join me on Thursday night, and I look forward to seeing you on other Thursday night Hangouts. So follow me on G+, follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, and in every location I have Wise Wealth University on G+, Facebook, and then also on my website. And then remember, on Twitter, it's Pink Professor. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next couple weeks. Good luck, and send out that mailing. Do one every weekend. That's the best way to find deals. Thanks, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.